on, and there's not a lot of choices.
I actually started a business until my doctor told me I had to give up salt.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Multimedia Magicians Toastmasters. Today we have romantic comedy specials. Have you ever seen a movie back to back? Has anyone seen a movie back to back twice? Which one? Pooja, which one?
Well, I can't remember, but I used to really be into movies. So I've definitely seen more than one movie back to back more than one time.
Jamal, do you remember?
It's a Netflix series, Never Have I Ever, during pandemic. That was something that I would just watch. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Nice. I've at 15 years ago, I was really in love with Meg Ryan. And then they were showing the movie Sleepless in Seattle. And I have watched that movie. I watched it from 6 to 8 and then continued it from 8 to 10. So that much I used to like Meg Ryan. So today I am going to show a picture of a movie. And I want you to tell us, why did you like that movie? And if you don't know the movie, just speak whatever comes to your heart. Let's get started. Elaine, are you ready?
Of course, Abby.
Perfect.
Always ready.
You will have 30 seconds. Okay, first one is Jamal. Let's go. Oh, shoot. So your slide will come next in 22 seconds.
Me or Jamal?
Jamal, first.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll start out with Jamal. Everyone who will not be able to identify the movie, they will give me $100. So today I'm collecting my retirement. So please be ready with your checks.
Is that Canadian or?
No,
But if
US.
you identify the movie, Abhishek will give you $100.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, Jamal.
This is My Big Fat Wedding, Greek Wedding. That's it is. It's my wedding and nobody's ready. And I just love this movie because she fell in love with a vegan guy, and they are surprised to see that that guy only eats cucumbers, carrots, and lettuce, and no lamb and no meat. That is so too much for Mediterranean people. And I remember one scene that said, "You don't eat meat? Really? You don't eat meat? Let's cook lamb for you." Over to you.
Sandra.
I've seen this movie. I believe it's where Jack Nicholson is actually dating the daughter. I don't remember the title, but he has a great scene in the hospital where they are telling him that he's, got high blood pressure, he's going to die, and he's all worried about this. And then he admits that he was fooling around with the daughter, I believe. What's the title?
I forgot. Michael Cohen.
Well, I do not know the name of this movie, but I see a man and a woman. Wow, how unusual. And they seem to be laughing about something. Also very unusual. I suspect they either are in love or soon will be. You can tell by the way that they're looking at it, not quite at each other yet, but you can feel the tension in the air. We'll just have to see what happens. Back to you.
Thank you.
The Wedding Singer.
Michael Haynes.
Well, like many movies, a photographer is on board to take pictures. And this happens to be a film with Hugh Grant, and I forgot her name. She's an actress, but also a famous model. So what I love about these stills that the photographers take is they just say the actors just look happy. Well, if you know Hugh Grant, he's a pretty witty guy. And he said something to, I'll call her Audra, and Audra is saying, "You've got to be kidding."
Thank you, Michael. GA.
These two who are shopping have no resemblance to anything that I have seen because I really don't go to the movies. So, what I think is happening in this movie, and no, I am not going to give you $100, Abhijit. I am instead going to send you a picture of my scones. But what they're doing in the shopping aisle is looking for the ingredients of making the scone.
Thank you, GA. Niladri. Elaine, you want to go?
Once upon a
Hi.
time, there
Hi.
was a woman who lived in New York City, and she was just unlucky in love. Everything she tried, it's really hard to meet someone when you're working and you're busy all the time, and she was just having a hard time. But one day, this guy decided to come, and she hired an assistant. So she hired an assistant who was pretty good looking. See, this was a pretty good move on her part. So it became one of those classic stories of the secretary falls in love with the boss. And of course, there was a lot of ups and downs, but in the end, they resolved it all on the street in front of 600 other New Yorkers. The end.
Thank you. Ravi. Ravi Adusumilli. Birgit. Niladri.
Not much of a movie fan,
Okay.
but it can be really perilously awkward if you are so close to each other. Look at them. They could go into any form of activity, and we don't have a clue at this particular point of time. It could be Abhijit and Pooja, for instance, and we wouldn't know what to do next. I would really keep them 6 feet apart. Over to you.
Linda.
I forgot the movie name, but I saw the picture is they are one couple. They have the match on the in the restaurant. So what they're talking about? They're talking about what are you doing next weekend? Do we discuss about we take a pleasure to see a drama? No, no, I don't like it. I want to see a movie. Or maybe they will talk about their kids. But it seems like they are not they are not happy, right?
Birgit.
Abhijit, you know that there's only one way to do that one, and it's no words.
Yes, I know.
If you know the
I love this movie actually. Birgit, this is for you. I think Birgit is not there. Ishwari, do you want to try?
Actually, I don't know about this film.
You can talk about anything what this picture tells you.
Maybe they are dancing in a very happy mood. Maybe during a Valentine Day celebration, they are maybe celebrating that event. Like a couple celebration like that.
Thank you so much, Ishwari. I watched this movie when I was flying from Japan to Hong Kong. I was looking forward to the movie, and I was glad that it was there. Pooja.
Oh, thank you, Abhijit. I think these two people want to participate in some kind of competition, and they decided that for strength training they would do this weird Pilates aerobatics. But the woman's got to be really, really careful with what's going on. I'm really afraid for that man, and I wish him well.
Thank you. Dennis Dawson.
Here's Tom Hanks, a very popular actor with some kid nobody ever heard of again. But there, across the tracks, is Abhijit's love of his life, Meg Ryan, again. And this is why this particular movie, Sleepless in Seattle, has a special place in the hearts of all of the multimedia magicians. We know that as long as Meg Ryan is present, Bobby is going to be able to calm down and make it through the entire meeting. So whether it's Harry meeting Sally, or Sleepless in Seattle, or just some home movies, or perhaps some of the pictures that he took by looking over her head, any of these are going to be enough to keep him calm and quiet, and that's what we need from him.
Thank you. Michael Haynes.
Well, this is where the soundtrack kicks in with two actors that don't come to mind. And the soundtrack that comes to mind in this scene is I'm in the mood for love simply because you're near me. And she's just can't crack up in this scene because she definitely in real life is not in love with him because she's actually bisexual and not interested in him at all. So Stewart has nothing to gain from this scene, so they just moved right on as the soundtrack played on.
Thank you, Michael. I think Ravi, if you can hear me, you can take this. Last chance, Ravi. I think we will stop here. We'll move on to our next section. Today we have two amazing speeches. Our first speaker is going to be Pooja. Pooja is going to demonstrate us how to make Indian bread. The purpose of this speech is for Pooja to practice delivering an informative speech and running a well-organized question and answer session. So please consider this objective when giving your feedback after Pooja's speech. Her pathway is presentation mastery. This is level 4, project 2, Pooja Joshi. Crispy, flaky goodness. Crispy, flaky goodness, Pooja Joshi.
Thank you. Just working on putting my slides up. But thank you everyone for being here. I hope you enjoy my presentation and have some questions for me at the end, because that's the whole point of this session. So, by a show of hands, how many of you like Indian food? Okay, I see a lot of hands going up. And I'd like to ask anyone, unmute yourself, and what is the Indian bread that you most likely have had? Not my Indian friends, but someone else.
Chapatis.
Yes, Michael.
Worries?
It's a
I'm
pancake. It's like a
Naan?
pancake and it has garlic on it. I forgot the name.
Chapatis or naan?
Naan?
garlic naan, chapatis. I
Garlic
hear
naan.
that.
Puris?
Puris. Wow. Okay. So that's great. We have a lot of people who know a lot of Indian breads. Today, I'm going to bring you a new one. Think of this as a really crispy, layered, it's something similar to, what do I call it? I don't know what it's called in English, but we call it lacha paratha. It's full of layers, full of butter, quite like puff pastry, but nothing like puff pastry. And the reason this is special is because this one is flavored with mint. Now I hear a lot of people when they hear mint in food, they're thinking toothpaste, it's going to taste like toothpaste. No ways. But hear me out. Mint in a paratha, in Indian bread, takes it to a whole new level, completely out of this world. You got to have this. You can have this with your chicken tikka masala or any vegetarian masala, but it's really, really good with just plain spiced yogurt. We have this for breakfast sometimes. There's a lot of mint in my garden and I don't know what to do with it. This is what I do with it. So to make this, you're going to start with, the first thing you need is Indian whole wheat bread. And the reason I chose to show you this is because it's a whole wheat, bread, better than the fully refined all-purpose flour that we find. If you can, I would suggest that you make it with the Indian whole wheat because it's a different variety. The whole wheat that you will get in the American supermarket is the red wheat, which doesn't end up becoming very soft. So if you can buy the Indian whole wheat, this is the brand that I recommend. I found it to be the most finely ground, and that's what makes a difference in this. But if you don't want to go to an Indian store, you can use any whole wheat. You can make this with all-purpose flour too, but the proportions will vary and your texture will vary. So I'm not going to talk about the all-purpose flour variety. Today, I'm going to tell you about how to make it with whole wheat. Get that fiber in when you're having your bread. The next thing you need is lots and lots of mint. Any variety of mint will do. I take it from my garden. You can buy some fresh mint from the supermarket, but you need fresh mint and not dried varieties. You need dried variety too, but the highlight is your fresh mint. And then we take 1 cup of whole wheat. We got 1 cup of, or maybe 1.5 cup of mint leaves. You're going to keep some aside. Mix that into a dough with some water. You can add some ghee if you like. And to flavor it, we're also going to add some grated ginger, grated garlic, salt. And the best way to knead it is if you have a bread maker. A bread maker will knead the best dough for making Indian flatbreads. But if you don't have a bread maker, you can go with it with your hands. You can use a KitchenAid too. And if you're tired and you don't want to keep on kneading the dough, a simple trick is to mix up the ingredients and cover it and set it aside. And while you set it aside, the water is going to absorb into the dough and the gluten is going to build. You want that gluten in there. You want to build a lot of gluten. So sorry if you're gluten-free, but this bread needs that gluten to build. So when you knead it, you set it aside. If you don't need it a lot, you still set it aside. And then after 15 to 20 minutes, you knead it again and set it aside. You want to keep it for about half an hour, covered tightly, no air getting in there. And another trick I use is I just put a layer of oil, like, just take a couple of drops of oil in your hand and cover the dough in oil. And that's really going to seal it in there and help it become very soft. When you come back in half an hour, you're going to find that the dough is not lumpy, but it's really soft. And in fact, when you pull it apart, it's going to almost create strings slightly. To show you what the texture is like, this is the same dough, and this is what's going to happen to it when you stretch it. You're aiming for this consistency, not too much water, not too soft, and not too dry. Because if you make a very thick and dry dough, it's going to end up not making your parathas soft. So your dough is ready. The next step is to make this spicing, the seasoning. You want dried mint powder. Now, I don't know if that's available as a seasoning in any other supermarket. I think maybe you get it in those organic seasoning glass bottles. But if not, this is the Indian variety. It's called pudina. Very simple. It's just like a dried mint powder. And then something that may be new to you is chaat masala. If you haven't bought this, this is one thing that I would suggest you to go and buy at an Indian store. It's a tangy, sweet, salty seasoning, and it goes well with just about anything. Some people add it to their fruits, and that's why you see a picture of different fruits on there. But it's a great accompaniment in this bread. And the thing that chaat masala adds is a sourness, and the combination of sour and mint is going to take your paratha to a completely different level. It's a combination which you may not have imagined, but trust me, when you try this, it's going to blow your mind. You're going to mix a little bit of, I have the measurements here. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to mix some of the mint powder. You're going to mix paprika to your taste. If you like it spicy, go for more of it. Cumin powder, salt, and this chaat masala, and mix that up and keep it aside. While your dough is getting ready, now it should be really soft and smooth, like you see in this picture here. The quantities that I gave you would yield about 4 to 6 of these balls. And with your rolling pin, you're going to, roll it out to about 6 inches. Once you have that, the next step is you can take some ghee, or you can take any oil, any fat will do. Try to go for a fat which doesn't have a very strong flavor of its own. So I would stay away from something like olive oil, but avocado oil is great. And of course, ghee is what's going to give you the intended flavor. So spread your ghee on this, and then you spread the seasoning that we just made. The next step is is a little bit of a craft project, but that's what makes this so much fun. We want to fold it like this pink paper fan that you see. We're going to fold our dough in this way and end up with all those layers one on top of the other. Now this step is really crucial. This is what's going to create those flakes in your paratha. And if you've added a lot of ghee, this will not work. But if you've added too little ghee, this will not work either. Because if your ghee is too little, it's not going to separate the layers. But if you add it too much, it's just going to spill out. So how much should you add? You want your ghee to just be a layer, just enough to make your dough glossy, but not so much that it's spilling over, and not so little that you don't have enough in all places. It needs to be spread throughout the paratha. The next thing is you're going to create a little rose of goodness. When you take that, the layers that you folded and you turn it around and around, it looks like a rose. And then you're left with a little bit of dough on the outside. Just tuck it in and create this little rose of goodness. You keep these aside. You can make these for all the dough balls that you made and keep these rosettes aside. And then once you've made all of them, you come back to the first one, add some of the whole wheat flour on it, and then roll it back. So you started with a 6-inch rolled dough, then you folded it, and then you roll it back to 6 inches. If it's too sticky, you can add some flour to just, so it doesn't get sticky anymore, but don't add too much. The more flour you add, the more tough they're going to end up. Next is you put them on your hot pan. Now, how hot should your pan be? If you're making a curry, you want your pan to be so hot that you sprinkle water on it and it just sizzles. But if you're making a paratha, you don't want it to be that hot. If you put water on it and sizzles, your pan is far, far too hot. Keep it low. The way I do it is when I begin my parathas, I'll keep my gas on at about less than medium, 1/4 of the way of the whole thing. And that just works for me, but your device will be different. So this is something that you're going to try and experiment and learn. And often the first paratha you make, your pan is going to be too hot. So the second one, you're going to end up with a better outcome. That's just what happens to most people, unless you know exactly how hot you need it to be. But if it's sizzling, if your water is sizzling on that pan, it is far too hot. Never, ever put your paratha on. It's going to get stuck. So you're at your optimum pan temperature. You put your paratha on it, and you're going to feel that it's stuck on the pan. Oh, no. Don't worry. It's going to be stuck on your pan for about 30 seconds, and as it cooks, it's going to release. You don't need to use a non-stick pan for this. Any pan, any crepe pan is fine. Mine I've been using for a long time, and all the non-stick coating or whatever is gone, and it works just fine. So you don't need to bother with non-stick or anything. It's still going to release. The paratha is going to release, and then you flip it over. And as it cooks, you'll see it bubbling, and that's telling you that it's the right temperature and the right way to cook it. And at the final stage, when you've cooked both your sides, you're going to just press it down with your spatula. And this is where the magic happens, because as you press it down, your paratha is already cooked, the layers have released, and when you press it, the layers which are on top are going to crisp up, whereas the insides of your paratha are still soft. And that's what creates this magic, with crisp layers but a soft interior. And then your paratha is ready. You just put some ghee on it if you'd like, have it with whatever curry you want, with yogurt, or just have it by itself. That's great too. Now, any questions? Just unmute yourself and ask, because I can't see all the participants.
What if I don't have ghee?
If you don't have ghee, you can use any oil. You can use, like I said, avocado oil is great. Any oil which doesn't have a lot of flavor. Did that, Elaine, I will come to you next. Did that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, thanks.
Elaine.
2 questions, Prisha. First, is it possible to just sprinkle that chaat masala onto fresh fruit slices and eat it? Is that kind of how you do it? Okay, because
you can do that.
Because sometimes you see these Mexican food vendors and they kind of do the same thing. And I think it's chili sauce. I don't know. They sprinkle the same thing. It's that kind of nice and sweet and hot. Okay. Second.
So chaat masala is not hot. It's not hot. So you're not going to get a hot flavor. It's like a sweet and sour tangy. You can put it on fruits.
Okay. And the second question is, would you consider doing a cooking class? May I come over your house and then you show me how? Because I know this is great, but there's some stuff that you just can't see, like the kind of pan and how hot the heat is. So, I mean, I love to bake. I know these things. You can follow a recipe and yeah. So that's my second question.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to have you all over and make some parathas and some curry. So next time when we are through with the pandemic, let's meet somewhere and I will bring the food.
Oh, no, just me. Private cooking class, me. Forget everybody else. No. You misinterpret. Forget them. Just me. Okay, well, let's talk.
All right. You got it.
I have a question, or actually a couple.
Yes.
Would a cast iron pan work? Would that be a good pan? Yeah.
Yes.
And if you put too much ghee on it, can you just pat it off?
Yes, you can pat it off. When you make that rosette flavor, your ghee is going to ooze out, and you can take some out. Or if it's manageable, you can let it be. It's going to make your parathas even softer. I don't like too much overflowing because then it's harder to roll it out as well. So you can take it off once you make that rosette and it's oozing out. But bear in mind that when that happens, your seasoning is going to come out as well. So that's going to reduce the amount of flavor in your paratha.
And can you use clarified butter or schmaltz? I know the schmaltz is chicken fat, but if you're vegetarian,
I've never used chicken fat, but clarified butter is ghee. So yes.
Yeah, I have a question for G.
Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, Purji is very interesting. The recipe, I very love the all kinds of cuisine. And one question is, when you make the food, do you have to put some minutes, something like in our Chinese, the way we needed to put a minutes, and let is the food is self-raising the food. Do you put down the table and let the first some minutes?
So
how many minutes? The first. The second thing, do you want to put some egg?
There is no rising.
No rising.
No.
Oh.
This flour does not rise. I mean, it's not meant to rise. When you keep it for some time, when you knead the dough and keep it, it's just going to develop some gluten and become sticky. But this particular dough and this recipe or any of the chapatis and parathas don't have any rising flour. It's just water
that is
and fat and
different.
flour.
That is very the different process. So I also do
Mhm.
some our Shahani's the green onion pie. So we need to put some the
Mhm.
maggots and also in the cookie, right? Some cookie I want to put some the soda or some the eggs. So there's
Right,
those
right.
the recipe all you don't need, right?
No,
Oh, that's great.
you don't need any of that. And if you don't have the mint, you can just make the same thing without mint also, and it's also a dish. It's just a plain paratha.
Okay.
But yeah, there's nothing to, there's no need to rise. This
Okay.
flour does not rise.
Okay, that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to the evaluations. Let me call upon Chie to give an evaluation for Pooja. Chie?
Ooh, thank you so much. I love this, Pooja. This was so exciting. What was done really effectively is using the background and having your position just so that we could see both you and the image. That worked really well. What I wanted to see a little more of was you pointing at the image and saying, in this step, we do blah, blah, in this step. And as you can see here, try this. So interact with the image a little bit more to give us the full experience of this cooking demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, Chie. Jamal?
That was excellent, Pooja. You shared with us a recipe, and I'm definitely going to try it. So thank you so much for sharing this recipe as well as different steps. Areas for improvement, like Chie mentioned, instead of pointing, you could use 1, 2, 3 when you had 4 or 5 images. And to take it to the next level, you could have shown us a cooked paratha and eaten in front of all of us and shared how delicious it is when it touches your mouth. That would have made all of us mouth watering, and we'll be like, give it to me kind of thing. But I just enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Michael Cohen?
I could sense a warmth coming from you. You were very comfortable in front of the camera. The one thing I noticed is your eye contact, you were looking outward, but not at anybody. Something like this, where you weren't really looking into the camera and looking directly at us. I would have liked to feel a stronger connection when you spoke. Back to you.
Thank you. Michael Haynes?
Thank you. Jamal, you hit it right on the spot, ending with a completed product where you're tasting it. And you tapped into that. So I think you left us all with wanting something, right? To taste it, to try it, to come to your house. So that's just massive achievement in your speech. But there are moments throughout that I think you could have added the tastiness in your discussion of a mint from your backyard, maybe a picture of your mint in the backyard. And, when you crush mint and the smell of, so now we're feeling, but we're actually having a bodily reaction to it. So the mint, and remember, you begin with goodness and you come back to goodness later. The example of the dough is great. My dad was a baker, and that's when we got to taste the dough, which some people find yucky. And sour and mint, you juxtaposed a couple ingredients there. So more of those kinds of things. I love a lot of the language roles of goodies. And lastly, is some props. I think Elaine, mentioned, we don't have the size of the pan, but even a spatula, or maybe your photos could have your hand in it for perspective, and that would give us a better sense of the tools that we need and the size or how we can make do even with a skillet. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael Haynes. We'll now move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dennis Dawson. Dennis is continuing to hone this speech in preparation for the International Speech Contest. He's using OBS and would appreciate feedback on ways he can take advantage of the capabilities of OBS to further enhance this presentation. Dennis Dawson's pathway is engaging humor. This is level 3, project 3, using visual aids. Dennis Dawson, a different time, Dennis Dawson.
A couple of weeks ago, after 37 years of faithful avocado green service, I decommissioned my flour and sugar canisters. The sugar container had a crack in the lid. They were dirty looking. Okay, they cleaned up once they were empty, but still they were dated looking and not very ergonomic. I found a set of canisters on Amazon.com. They're rectangular and make better use of space. They're clear, so I can tell at a glance when it's time to buy more. The new containers are just better. I get that. Still, I can't help but wax nostalgic. I was married on June 9th, 1984. We didn't have a registry, so for some reason, we mostly received gift sets of mixing bowls. Lots and lots of mixing bowls. We had to set up household, so later in the week, my mother gave us her set of avocado green canisters. Now, don't feel sorry for her. She had another complete set in orange. Now, you might be amused to see these earth tone colors that were so popular in the late 1960s, but that's not the only thing that's outdated about these canisters. You see, these are Tupperware canisters. Tupperware was a revolutionary plastic product of the 50s and 60s. It was an earth tone wonderland in the 1980s. Now, Tupperware's claim to fame was its unique burp and seal feature. You would press the special button in the center of the lid, forcing out excess air before making a tight seal. Tupperware came in a variety, oh goodness, of shapes and sizes. You would press, seemingly a container for every conceivable need. Even some of my baby brother's toys were Tupperware. But what was special about Tupperware is that you couldn't buy it in a store and you couldn't buy it from a catalog. You could only buy Tupperware directly from a local distributor. The distributor would come to our house and we would put on what was called a Tupperware party. All of the moms in the neighborhood would dress nicely and gather to look at the latest offerings. They had to buy something when they came to our Tupperware party, or we wouldn't buy any Tupperware when we went to their party. You would make your selections on the order form, hand over a check, and you got your Tupperware. 4 to 6 weeks later. Tupper was used as just-in-time manufacturing, producing containers based on the sales rather than stocking them up in a warehouse. It was a sensible system at a time when instant gratification wasn't the norm. People expected it to take time to get stuff, and we could wait. But the event wasn't just selling plasticware, it was recreational. It was a real party. Coffee and cake were served, along with neighborly chit-chat. It was a very social activity. And it wasn't just the moms either. They often brought their teenage daughters along, and I was expected to entertain them. I did not object to this duty. In fact, I had my very first real grown-up kiss with Ruthie Dehart from next door. I can still remember the smell of her skinny dip perfume, the taste of the apple cider on her lips. That memory is perfectly preserved in my mind as if it were stored in Tupperware. Now, the Tupperware hostess was not paid in cash for hosting the event. They were given credit toward Tupperware. My mother was the queen of Tupperware. We had an enormous collection. I still have several cups. I have measuring cups. I have bowls and containers still in service after decades of constant use. They are a tenuous tether back to my family and to my youth. Amazon makes it easy to find the items I want. I can get them in 1 or 2 days or even the same day if I want to pay a premium. They come right to my door in so many ways. Amazon is a better option. But I can't help but reminisce about a slower time, a more social time when we purchased our canisters with pretty women dressed in pearls, when we would have a nice chat over coffee and cake, and the Tupperware would arrive in its time. We could be patient. So, in these times of social media and sensible isolation, I have to admit I miss the time of Tupperware. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Dennis, to take us through those old days. Everyone, please take a minute to write your feedback. We'll then proceed to round robin evaluations.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, in India right now, Tupperware is very big. My mom's friends, they are having these kinds of get-togethers so that they can buy Tupperwares. We'll start our evaluation with Niladri. Niladri, you want to go first?
Thank you, Abhijit. Although it's work time for me, and I apologize for missing out intermittently on this fabulous, fabulous presentation. It took me, I think, generations back. And as Abhijit just mentioned, in many parts of the world, Tupperware is just becoming common when it was already common in the 50s and 60s in another part of the world. So thank you so much for that. I absolutely love the visual imagery of the colors, golden harvest and burnt orange. I mean, a powerful speech can evoke images in your mind, and I think today Dennis excelled at it. The only thing that I felt was he was so ominously perfect at delivering. I am just considering, could there be a better flow of the speech? Was there any way that Dennis could have flown the speech better? There were, he was, I don't know how to put this, imperfectly perfect. I don't know if that imagery makes sense, but he was so perfect, and I'm just scratching my head to come up with an area of improvement. But the flow in my mind could have been a little bit better, but don't ask me how. But awesome presentation. Fabulous. Over to you, Abhijit.
Thank you so much, Niladri. Sandra?
Thank you. That brought back so many memories, especially since I was a Tupperware lady. And I remember the parties and the food. I loved all the sensory stimulation that we got from the speech. I kind of agree with the last person's thought about rearranging things, maybe put your main thoughts on index cards, throw them up in the air and see where they fall and rearrange them and see what happens. But mostly I didn't quite get the purpose other than evoking memories. And typically in a competition, there's an overlying message. I know you were saying that we missed this. Maybe throw in the kiss at the very beginning and all the wonderful things that came from that. But it just didn't seem to have a takeaway for me. I guess that's the word I want to use, a takeaway at the end. So if you could think of something you want us to do, or I think you did remind us, which was great, but give us an action item. I think that would be very effective.
Thank you, Sandra. Jenny?
Dennis, this was a hilarious retake on Tupperware. I love the visual aids and the sort of dry, witty, kind of British sense of humor. Given the round robin, maybe one thing to take it up a notch is in the humor, contrast is huge for getting that laugh, the unexpected twist. And just like everyone alluded to, the sequence of events matters. So especially since you have triplets, maybe lead the two things together, and then the third one being a twist or exaggerated. And a lot of times you were in that corner. So somehow if you could appear within your slides using the OBS, maybe that can make the exaggeration of that third image, that third twist even more, and also allow your body language to set it up for that punchline, that twist with your message at the right time. I think that might get some more laughs in addition to what you've done so far, but awesome speech.
Thank you, Jenny. Michael Haynes?
There's some great feedback there. I don't have any comments on ways to improve OBS, which was part of the initial thing, but a couple things. I think you're on your way to a very compelling speech, and I think Sandra made a very good point, is revisit some of the basics in terms of the expectation for the international speech, and that may start to pull things a little tighter. One way I would just get rid of the Amazon. It's one thing to mention Amazon, and that's great because we all know that, but I really love the nostalgia. I loved the examples of all the variety of Tupperware that you showed. And I would take it one step further, and that's two things, and this is a whole visual thing. One, I want to see more of you, and to see more of you, I'd like to see you face on the screen. In fact, you mentioned some props, and I think the props would show up more as my hands are here. If you're really facing us, as we mentioned in the earlier speech, we're looking at you. I'm not a fan of your bookshelves in the back. I think they were distracting. So there must be a way in OBS that you are part of the entire presentation and you're not bouncing around on the screen in various little boxes. So that's just some things. You're on to a lot of great content here. And lastly, vocal variety. And I think with what Jenny was saying, and you're really chewing on the great triplets and all the lovely little words you chose and linked together, just will really pop out a lot of those very fine moments. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Cohen?
I'm probably going to reiterate a lot of what other people said, so I'm going to find things they haven't said. I agree with Sandra, who just posted. Your language was very descriptive. I noted nice use of alliteration, such as tenuous tether. I like that very much. And yes, you invoke a lot of emotion just from what you spoke of. You didn't just say green. You said avocado green. You made us think and use our senses. Where it could use some improvement is mostly the mechanics. I noticed, for example, that OBS malfunctioned at one point and flipped through very quickly. That's something you will have to work on. They'll probably disqualify you almost immediately. Everything has to go right, including the props. So you need to work on that a little bit. It's probably not you. It's probably the system. Unfortunately, it's what we're stuck with in the Zoom culture. But very well done. Very evocative. Well done indeed. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Elaine?
All right, I'm going to do something. I got a different point of view, Dennis. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Everyone's given great feedback. I'm not going to repeat anything. For me, I was sitting there at 1:30 going, where's he going with this? Because I really didn't know. It's about Tupperware. It's about old Tupperware. It's about Amazon. And then at the end, it was like a memory speech. These are my memories. And it was kind of like it was about your mom and your sisters. And, you know, it's kind of like a speech about them. It wasn't about you. I wanted more you. I wanted more you on the screen instead of the little box at the bottom. And I wanted kind of like Pooja did. She was big, you know, and she had the stuff next to her, the visuals. So there's that for the, you know, the specialty of our club. But I wanted to know like what you thought about Tupperware back then, if you even cared. You know, now you care maybe a lot more than you did back then. But your brother, yeah, your brother had those toys. I want to know like I want to know more about the story about how you kissed the girl, you know, and were stuck entertaining them. If you were happy about that, it sounds like you were. It's a story there. I wanted more about your take on the whole thing back then, because, you know, did you like go in the backyard and put frogs in it and get in trouble because your mom said, don't you dare put, you know, there, like a man's perspective on the thing, a boy's perspective, your perspective, because now you're looking back and going, oh man, oh, it was so great, you know, and I still got this. And that could be the transform. I just wasn't getting enough of you out of this. And that's what I feel.
Thank you, Elaine. Chia?
I too wanted to see more of you. I was envisioning you being a narrator of this kind of a interesting Discovery Channel or some special on TV, blog type of thing that's giving us a time travel into the past about Tupperware. So for most of the time, you were this small little box in a corner. And there were times when I saw the image in the background didn't quite match what you were saying. For example, when you're talking about the background of Tupperware being a just-in-time type of manufacturing, blah, blah, blah. When the picture of the party was in the background, it didn't match. So at times like that, if there's a way of changing the size of the screen or the focus so that you're this big thing and we see you, and then when it cuts over to the tea party thing, you know, flip back to your small screen over here and show us the big screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chia. I think that can be done. We can change the scenes where we change our size on OBS. There is a way to do that. Thank you so much, everyone. Now let me call upon Michael Haynes to give us an announcement. Michael, it's all you.
Thank you. And Dennis, thank you once again. It's not so much of an announcement. Pooja, we spoke about what you characterized as a Valentine's gift to the club. Is that what we're looking to do here?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me just set a couple things up here. Give me a minute and we shall begin. Thank you. Would you enable screen sharing for me, please? Thank you. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, first published, as you can see here, in 1609. There are 6 more included in 6 of his plays. And this got me thinking, in his plays, those sonnets, in effect, were soliloquies, which is a character speaking directly to his audience. Why not present a sonnet in this manner? His work has always been performed and meant to be spoken. So approaching these sonnets gave myself more latitude to vocally interpret each sonnet as if I am a character on stage. I decided to pair up with Sonnet 115 and 116 because they present love from a more youthful point of view in 115 to a more, shall I say, mature point of view in 116. So what I'm going to show you in a moment is the original folio text on screen so that you may follow along and perhaps understand a little bit more. We begin by Shakespeare admitting that his love has grown, which makes his earlier sonnets about the fullness and constancy of his love into lies. So if you look at line 1717 and through 1720, this is a difficult section. The speaker was depending on the fact that the passage of time together with millions of unexpected events that can come between lovers, promises, and change even with the decrees of kings might darken a lover's sacred beauty. And that's the line, tan sacred beauty, to take the edge off a lover's keenest intentions and force the strongest minds to adapt to changing circumstances. Note the use of the word altering, as you will hear in the next sonnet. So I hope this helps. Those lines before me that I doth writ do lie, even those that said I could not love you dearer. Yet then my judgment knew no reason why, but most my full frame should afterwards burn clearer. But reckoning time, whose millioned accidents crept in twixt vows and changed decrees of kings, tan sacred beauty, blunt the sharpest intents, divert strong minds to the course of altering things. Oh, alas, why fearing of time's tyranny, might I not say now I love you best? Oh, when I was certain, or in certainty, crowning the present, doubting of the rest, love is a babe, then might I not say so to give full growth to that which still doth grow? Now, Sonnet 116, which is a continuation of the sonnet that I've just performed, Shakespeare beautifully describes love in its most ideal form. True love is portrayed as something that's everlasting and unchanging. Now, I know it says 119 on the screen, and that's how the folio was printed and published. I fear that the typesetter may have had too many pints. The first part of this poem, lines 1728 to 1733, the bard explains what love is not. It's not something that changes when external circumstances change. True love is like an ever-fixed mark, a north star or a lighthouse to a wandering ship, referred to as a bark. A love that can look on any storm and not be shaken. Line 1735 to 1738, Shakespeare then goes on to talk about how love stands the test of time. Physical beauty falls prey to time, but true love cannot be conquered by time. Even when weeks, months, and years pass by, true love stands firm until death comes by. He concludes the sonnet by boldly stating that if he is proved wrong in the last two lines in his description of true love, then no man in history has ever loved before. I have to admit that there was a lot of exaggerated metaphors in this poem, but it does provide a lovely escape into the fantasy world of pure, unadulterated love. So come escape with me into the bard's world of ideal romance in Sonnet 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with remover to remove. Oh no, it's an ever fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star for every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, although rosy lips and cheeks with his bending sickle compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was something. Let me call upon Pooja. Pooja, it's all you.
Thank you, Abhijit. Abhijit just mentioned to me, Sandra, you had something to say, so we will begin with you.